Hey all, Ron here from Military Images Magazine with a new episode of Life on the Civil War Research Trail. A few years ago, I was out walking my dog near my home here in Arlington, Virginia, located along the defenses of Washington, D.C. during the Civil War, and I found this a bullet. And you can imagine, for those of you who are relic hunters, you can imagine the thrill of spotting this in the ground after a rainstorm, the absolute just thrill that swept through my body was indescribable. And I thought a little bit afterwards, man, who did this belong to? How did it get to be here in the ground? And wow, wouldn't it be really cool if I could find that person again? Well, the story I want to share with you now is a similar situation. There was an individual who was out walking, only this time it was near Salem Church in the vicinity of Fredericksburg. And this individual found a medal. That medal was circular. It had the embossing of an eagle on the front with some patriotic writing. And then on the back, it had the name of an officer. It had his rank, it had his regiment, and it had his hometown. Well, this happened in 1892. And as it turns out, the man whose name was on the back of the medal was still alive. He had survived the war. And so I want to tell you the story. He's actually pictured here. And I want to tell you the story about how the medal was found and how they got it back to him. This appeared in a number of newspapers in early 1893. It was a popular story that made the rounds. So the title of it is A Treasured Medal Recovered After Many Years. It was originally published in the St. Louis Republic. So here we go. During the winter of the year 1861, when the Iron Brigade was encamped on Arlington Heights, said Lloyd Grayson Harris, that's the man pictured here, a well-known St. Louis citizen, to a reporter, an enterprising individual made his appearance in camp offering medals for sale. On one side was the regular American eagle with the words United States and War of 1861. The reverse side was blank, on which he proposed to stamp the name and rank of the officers and soldiers, urging as an inducement to buy these medals that they would serve to identify any person who might be so unfortunate as to be killed or wounded. I bought one, and in due time it was delivered to me. It was stamped in plain letters, Lieutenant Lloyd G. Harris, Company C, 6th Regiment, Wisconsin Volunteers, Prairie du Chien. In the spring of 62, the division to which the brigade was attached was taken from McClellan's army, that's George B. McClellan, which had already embarked for the peninsula and under command of McDowell, that's Irvin McDowell, moved out to Fredericksburg. While at Fredericksburg during the summer, encamped on the Falmouth side of the river, we made one or two raids in the direction of Richmond. At one time, we encamped in the vicinity of Salem Church, just back of Fredericksburg, and while there, I lost my medal. After lying on the ground 30 years, the medal was found by E. Mercereau of Fredericksburg, Virginia, and by corresponding with the postmaster of Prairie du Chien, Wisconsin, Major Ed Whaley, who, by the way, was a gallant member of Company C, and who, for conspicuous bravery, became major of his regiment, and finally left a leg in Virginia. My address was obtained, and this week the medal reached me. Reminiscences by scores and memories of old cluster around this medal. On the spot where it was found, both of the mighty armies, the Army of the Potomac and Lee's army, were twice engaged in conflict. First, the Battle of Fredericksburg, and second, the Battle of Chancellorsville, where the gallant Sedgwick fought and where the famous charge was made by the 6th Maine and the 5th Wisconsin. The man that sold these little medals to the Iron Brigade little thought Nor did the men have any idea at that time that of all the brigades in the service of the United States, that one particular brigade would have the most use for them. For, according to the records in the War Office at Washington, their percent in killed and wounded was the largest of any engaged in the war. One medal was sold to Captain Edward Brown of the 6th Wisconsin. I was with the captain at Bristow Station, Virginia, when he gave the medal to a little girl, telling her that she reminded him of his little one at home. At Antietam, he was killed, and when our burying party buried the Union and Confederate dead together, the same medal was found on the body of a dead Confederate lying only 100 yards away. So there you have it, the story of a medal lost and found that belonged to an Iron Brigade officer, was lost in 1862 in the vicinity of Salem Church, Virginia, and found in the same area 30 years later in 1892. Thanks for listening. We'll see you again on the